continues to practice criminals mentality and commit crimes against humanity and against the people of Iraq. My family lives in Baghdad. Last time, 3 times I called, I noticed that all the male members of the family are missing. And I'm much worried about them, that either they have been arrested to be tortured or they've been used as a human shield.
How do you know they're missing? Is it that you say, where is, a certain person and he just isn't, they say he's not home, or, or he's just simply not in the house? How do you know that the males are missing?
Exactly. The pattern has changed. Usually when I ask for my brothers or my brothers-in-law, all my families has all moved actually from their houses to my parents' home. And they stayed together. The first 4 times after the war started, I talked to every member, including my brothers and my brothers-in-law. The last 3, 4 times I couldn't talk. When I asked for them, they kept giving me excuses. But one thing that these people kept sending me this encrypted message, my family, that pray for us and don't worry, we are going to be in good hands and the big wedding is coming, meaning the liberation.
All right, Ahmed, you have had contact. You still have some distant family in Iraq, don't you?
Yes, it is. I did. And actually, my message is they are so happy indirectly. I mean, when I talk with them from their voice, they are so happy because what they are.
Hi is the president or the executive chairman of the Iraqi American Council, and he's joining us first this hour. Aziz, good to have you back with us.
Thank you, Ellen. It's good always to be here.
You would think after you've been on this program as many times as you could, I could get the title of your organization right, but I appreciate you being here. Sure. And I appreciate the chance of having an opportunity to talk one-on-one with you, because you had an agenda during the takeover of Iraq by the coalition forces. But now I want to hear from you from a personal perspective about what it's been like to watch this war from 8,000 miles away.
Well, very emotional, many times, many nights. Very dramatic. You don't know what's next. When the war started, obviously I've been working for 20 years to remove this regime. Even before that, when I was even 5 years old, I always had like nightmares how to get rid of Saddam. But as I came here and as a student and I tasted freedom here in the United States, I grouped with the Iraqi Americans here as students. Saddam had his own National Union of Iraqi Students. We had the Islamic Union of Iraqi Students. We'll come to the subject of Islamic soon, I'm sure. A lot of questions about that. But, 1998, we noticed that there is freedom here of being politically active. We established the Iraqi American Council, and we kept on the mission of trying to free and help our people be free. The war started, was the last resort. Either I or anybody wanted it, but when it started, we knew that this was not a war between 2 nations. It was a war of 2 nations against tyrant, which is Saddam. We knew and we said all along that this was about 2 things: protecting the American people from terrorists being harbored by Saddam, and also to free and liberate the Iraq people. So we had days and nights and shows. I got introduced a lot to the media and all these, major. I find myself speaking for a lot of Iraqi Americans who couldn't speak because they were so scared of Saddam, and also the Iraqi people inside Iraq, they had no way and no voice.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about. You have been quite vocal here in the United States, not just in the last 6 weeks, but for many years.
Since 1983, actually.
Were you never afraid that some of that news might get back to your homeland, back to Saddam or his henchmen?
Actually, it did. In 1983, Saddam's agents posing as students in Toledo. Now we can say the universities we went to. The University of Toledo in Ohio, Yahya al-Janabi was a Saddam agent, intelligence agent, posing as a physical education student. He stole a videotape of me giving a presentation against Saddam, sent it to Iraq. They put my family under house arrest. Even lately in this, I got like some kind of calls from some people telling me that we could tell Saddam, that you're speaking against him. Obviously, they had a different view about the war, and that was kind of blackmailing to me. What happened is I knew it could happen to them. I didn't know my family is alive until yesterday at 6 a.m. in the morning, when my sister called me from England. She said, my sister in Baghdad has just called her, spoke to her for 30 seconds, told her that everybody is okay. Then when I was willing to take the risk. 24 million people could be free versus my family, so I took that risk.
It's one thing, though, to say that you're willing to take the risk. You're living in America. You're speaking out. You're trying to acquaint people in America with the Iraqi people. Sure. and the challenges that they faced in the last 34 years. It's another thing, though, to know that your parents or your sisters could be hurt
Sure.
captured, imprisoned, tortured, even killed.
Well, it's already
Why would
happened
you?
to me.
I know it's happened
Sure.
to you, and why would you put them at risk? It takes an incredible amount of bravery, I would think.
Well, it takes that, and also it takes a long vision. I always thought that, look, Saddam has killed 3 million Iraqi citizens. Any of them could have been, like in my case was my cousin. In Salam's case, who's coming soon, is his 2 brothers. There is no family in Iraq that Saddam didn't leave some kind of funeral in them. I knew that my family is part of this society, and Saddam has put his oppression on every part of the society. And I knew I knew the risk, but I said something bigger than myself and my family is pushing me to this and to free these 24 million people. And I was so happy to hear from my sister that God has spared their life and God has saved them. I've said all along that there is a God up there who will protect the Iraqi people. People who told me, what's going to happen? These bombs going to fall on the Iraqi people. It's going to kill them. I said, no, remember the story of Abraham. The people threw him in the fire, and God made the fire cold on him. So I said that God has protected my family. I believed in that we were on the right side of history, and I believed in that very strong, and God has answered my prayers, obviously.
Does your family have that belief? Were they okay with you speaking out here in the United States?
They trusted me and respected me so much, even when I was in Iraq. I was only 15 years old, but because I'm the oldest son, they always respected my opinions and what I believed in. They sent me one letter after Saddam's agent sent that videotape, and they asked me, please stop doing that, and I sent that letter, and I hope I have kept that letter. I have decided on what I believe in. I'm going to continue to do that. Back then, Saddam has stopped them from sending money to me, and I was like 19 years old, stuck in this country. It never worked in my life. So I said, no, I will continue even if I had to eat eggs and cheese. That's what I said in my letter, something like that.
So you were here from the time that you were 15. Why didn't your family
19,
leave?
actually.
19. Why didn't your family leave Iraq at the same time?
I asked my father many times. Iraqis are not immigrant people. They're like people in Florida, the same weather. They really don't migrate. The only reason these 4 million left is because of Saddam's oppression. Baghdad is a beautiful city. These people didn't really travel outside that part of Baghdad. They stayed there. Their parents were there. Even the land, they become so much attached to Baghdad. And you have seen that a lot in the Iraqi demonstrations, that these people believe so much. You can take their food, you can take their freedom, but they believe in this land, and it's part of the heritage, and they want to stay there.
And we have seen just an enormous reaction just in the last couple of weeks since the fall of Baghdad. I was amazed at this huge gathering of the Shiites for the first time when they were allowed to honor a slain hero.
Sure.
Something that had not been allowed for 34 years.
Sure, and I remember that because this brings memories to me. I was 6 or 7 or even 8, and I used to go with my parents before Saddam prohibited these ceremonies. And the Shia, even though it looks like some of the ceremonies look bad, and like you have seen, but the Shia are the new friends of the United States in the area. And the reason I say that, because these people believe in the same concept. 1400 years ago, a man stood up for a tyrant. His name is Imam Hussein. And he refused to step down until justice is established and liberty is established. He said the same thing our founding father said, give me liberty or give me death. Yeah.
And of course, that is a familiar slogan here in the United States. We're going to continue our conversation on this early edition of It's Your Call, and we'll be back in just a moment with another Iraqi-American story. So if you have questions or comments, go ahead and give us a call. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm Lynn Doyle, and this is a special early edition of It's Your Call. We are talking about the aftermath of war. This is probably the last program that we will be able to talk about under the label of America at War. As you know, obviously, things are going well in Iraq in terms of the military operation. Now there is the rebuilding operation, and that will occupy our attention, I'm sure, for the future. And we are talking about the future of Iraq with some Iraqi Americans. Obviously, they have been watching this very closely, worried about their loved ones and friends in their homeland, and now telling us what it's like for the first time to experience freedom on both these lands and their homeland. If you'd like to join in, we'd certainly like to hear from you. Go ahead and give us a call. We've been talking with an old friend of the program.
When this started, it was supposed to be about weapons of mass destructions and finding these weapons and destroying them. But the Iraqi American Council and the Iraqi Americans, we kept the pressure and we kept exposing the regime that what we take here as basic rights, like the right to freedom of speech, the right to organize, the right to have non-profit organizations. In Iraq, owning a typewriter when I left was a crime punishable by death. Owning a satellite dish is a crime punishable by death. Owning an FM radio is a crime punishable by death. Being a Shia from the wrong ethnicity is a crime punishable by. So it was, and as now the torture of chambers has been exposed, and you have seen whatever we've been telling the people, and has been documented by the Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch. This is a completely very, very exceptional regime that believed, even if you are sitting in front of Saddam and he told him you have an eyebrow on the top of your eye and he didn't like it, he will kill you. So, you know, this is the kind of people we deal with.
These protesters who think an invasion of Iraq will trigger retaliation.
It's not going to solve anything. We're going to bomb some people who didn't bomb us. There were no Iraqis on those planes for 9/11. And if anything, this is going to give the terrorists more resolve to attack us.
We have to find a peaceful way. Violence that we begin is just going to start more violence all over the world.
This march was organized by the Philadelphia Regional Anti-War Network, PRAN for short. It's not only trying to stop a war before it starts, it's also demanding that the UN sanctions against Iraq be lifted. PRAN says the sanctions should be lifted because they have only hurt the Iraqi people by denying them basic food and medicine.
It obviously has not had the impact that they wish. If they claim that there's still weapons, then the sanctions have not gotten rid of the weapons. They have not knocked Saddam Hussein out of power. All they have done is killed children.
But these counter-protesters who confronted the marchers say it is not sanctions but Saddam who is killing children. They support the idea of U.S. military action because
Saddam is a terrorist, and so is his military.
But these peace activists believe opposition to U.S. military action is growing and hope eventually the White House will take notice and alter its course. John Rollins, Channel 6 Action News.
President Bush touted his own view of peace in response.
Pentagon official, the Assistant Secretary of Defense, Paul Wolfowitz, is going to be headlining and holding a town meeting here. A very large contingent of Iraqi Americans
for the second resolution at the UN.
Injured in that attack. From the Iraqi border town of Safwan, which was taken by the Marines early today. A Marine ripped his
own view of peace in response.
War will accomplish this. That's at the heart of the division of the debate we witnessed in the Iraqi community tonight.
He put the kids in the front of the tank, and
You'd be hard-pressed to find a more lively and democratic debate in America tonight than at the Al-Manar restaurant in Philadelphia's Feltonville section. Here, fellow Iraqis, neighbors, all American citizens agree Saddam must go. But using war to get rid of him is where they draw the line.
I support the war 100%. Yes. What he's doing is going on is right. It's right. Because Saddam, he has to go. He has to go. I have 3 brothers-in-law. They've been jailed for 23 years. Saddam, he killed Iraqis more than anybody else. Yes.
All the people of Iraq is my family because they're not getting, they go.
Americans have so far been unfounded.
I just hear about I was in White House and have to
Here's the latest in Target Iraq. The U.S. is claiming victory in what could be the biggest and deadliest battle of the war. And coalition troops
hoping that today the port can finally be declared safe and ready to receive tons of humanitarian aid.
Iraq's largest and most important port city and the
peace and like they're looking forward for a great day, which they call, by the way, in encoded messages, they call it the big wedding, which means the liberation. You know, basically they're telling us that they're looking forward for this, getting rid of this regime that has oppressed them for 34 years.
The big wedding is coming.
Exactly.
The big wedding is coming eventually, but Aziz fears that as coalition forces actually get to Baghdad, that Hussein and his Republican Guard army may resort to chemical weapons, as they did against the Iranians and against their own people. Live in Bustleton, I'm Mike Strug, NBC 10 News.
All right, thank you, Mike. Well, tonight the bodies of 8 American soldiers killed in the line of duty are back on American soil. NBC 10 today at Dover Air Force Base, 2 different planes brought the 8 bodies. Soldiers were killed in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sanctions, for example, he will receive them and try to use them as a propaganda.
على المنطقة. برنامج قضية الساعة.
من واشنطن نرحب بكم في هذه الحلقة الخاصة من العاصمة.
حياتهم يا أولي الألباب.
هذا سؤال للسيد رمزي كلارك. سيد كلارك.
فيها وقتل الأطفال والنساء وقتل العلماء الإسلام وقتل الشيخ عبد العزيز البدري زعيم الإخوان المسلمين في العراق 1974 واستخدم الأسلحة الكيميائية وهجر نصف مليون إنسان عراقي ولحد الآن 200,000 30,000 من المفقودين لا نعلم أين هم. هذه الحرب لم تتوقف، وإذا كان السيد رمزي كلارك وأنا أشكر له حبه للشعب العراقي فعلا، وهو كان يعني المدعي العام في أمريكا، أنا متأكد عندما كان مدعيا عاما إذا قتل أمريكيا شخصا واحد فإنه سيلحقه ويتابعه حتى يضعه أقل ما يمكن في السجن المؤبد. فكيف بصدام الذي قتل مليونين إنسان؟ وكيف بنا كعرب ومسلمين أن نقبل أن يقتل صدام كل هذه الأرواح ونسكت؟ ألم يقل الله سبحانه وتعالى ولكم في القصاص حياة يا أولي الألباب؟
هذا سؤال للسيد رمزي كلارك. سيد كلارك.
دعني أقول أولا لو أن شعوب المنطقة الشعوب العربية والفرس والأتراك لو كان لهم أمل في أن يكون لهم استقلال في يوم عليهم أن يتجنب هذه الحرب. العراق
لا تعطى من الأمريكان ولا من سواهم. إن الشعب العراقي في حالة كفاح مستمر من أجل الحصول على حريته من صدام، ولو أن صدام قام بإزالة المدن لسبب واحد أنه حاول اغتياله فيها. هذا أولا. ثانيا أن الحرية التي نبتغيها، وأن يبدو لي أن لك مشكلة مع مصداقية الحكومة الأمريكية، فأنا لست هنا للدفاع عن مصداقية الحكومة الأمريكية. نعم، لقد سياسات خاطئة اتخذتها الحكومات الأمريكية بدعم الدكتاتورية وتنصيب الدكتاتوريين، وهذه السياسات تغيرت بتصورنا بعد سبتمبر 11 بعد 11 من سبتمبر، والسبب أن هذه المنظمات الإرهابية وخصوصا القاعدة وابن لادن نشأت كنتيجة للظلم الذي وقع على الشعوب العربية والإسلامية. وأريد أن أؤكد لك أن الخيار واضح بالنسبة لنا كشعب عراقي. إذا كانت الحرب ستقع بسبب رفض صدام الاستقالة والتنازل عن الحكم، فإننا سنضحي بصدام وعصابته، ولن نضحي بالشعب العراقي ولا الأمة العربية ولا مصالح الأمة الإسلامية.
نعم. بقي معي دقيقتين فقط.
أنا لا أدري متى آخر مرة فيها في العراق. أنا هناك كل عام منذ عام 91. وأقول لك من يقاتل العراقيين؟ إنهم يقاتلون العقوبات، يريدون يبقوا على قيد الحياة، فهم في ضغط مستمر من الخوف. هناك قنابل سنة 21,000 رطل ستستخدم ضدهم، إنهم يتحدثون عن الحرب الصاعقة التي ستشنهم المئات من الصواريخ أكثر ما استخدم عام 91. هذا ما يخافون من يفكرون به حاليا. هذا ما قاتل من أجله على مدى 12 عام من العقوبات التي تقتلهم.
أن الحصار الاقتصادي هو خطأ وهو ليس سياسة صحيحة، ولذلك من أجل إنهاء معاناة الشعب العراقي والموت البطيء للأطفال والنساء فإن علينا أن نعمل شيئا ما، وهذا الشيء هو تنازل صدام عن الحكم وإنهاء الحصار فعلا. وأنا أوجه ندائي إلى الشعوب العربية والإسلامية والحكومات العربية والإسلامية بمطالبة والضغط على هذا النظام وهذه العصابة بالتنازل عن الحكم من أجل خير الأمة العربية والإسلامية.
سيد عزيز الطائي شكرا لك. نصف دقيقة سيد رمزي كلارك، أستمع إلى كلمة أخيرة منك.
لو أن ما علينا أن نفعل لأن ننهي حربا عدوانية، علينا أن ننهي فكرة أن الولايات المتحدة بإمكانها أن تهدد الناس بقنابل النووية كما يقول الرئيس. وأيضا
Aziz Al-Tai is explaining to his 9 and 10-year-old children why the U.S. has to go to war with Iraq.
This war is about one thing, to protect the American people from the terrorists who are hiding under the wings of Saddam Hussein, and also to free the Iraqi people and save their lives from Saddam's continuing Holocaust.
Tomorrow is the Iraqi Americans' 20th anniversary of coming to the U.S. after fleeing Saddam Hussein's regime.
Saddam has killed my cousin, mutilated his body, he's arrested a lot of my friends, he's hanged my brother-in-law. I had to save my life and save my family life.
Al-Tai has never gone back.
مع رجال أعمال سعوديين واتجاه للقبض على أحدهم لاتهامه بتمويل تنظيمات إرهابية وكذلك الاشتباه بصلة مصرف بتمويل الإرهاب. أعلم أن الحكومة السودانية وحركة التمرد الجنوبية وافقتا على تجديد اتفاق وقف الهجمات في المناطق الجنوبية، وحسب المصادر السودانية فإن تجديد الاتفاق للفترة الواقعة بين الأول من الشهر المقبل وحتى أواخر شهر أيلول.
Especially closely.
Yeah, U.S. Commander
made
hate crimes directed towards the Arab Americans. Hate crimes. Now, if and when war begins, the Philadelphia FBI office will have a 24-hour command post in operation ready.
عائلة ثرية، ورغم ذلك آثر أسامة بن لادن
الفترة الواقعة.
The FBI is not that.
Now, if and when war begins, the Philadelphia FBI office will have a 24-hour command post in operation ready.